Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my top 10 most triumphant moments of 2019 for gaming video. The year is almost over, and I figured might as well do a top 10 list of my own. And in this video, I'm not just going to be highlighting individual games, but rather just news and events that happened that caught my attention. Stuff that I thought was really good for the industry as a whole. There's obviously a lot of things that haven't been great about the games industry in 2019, which I'll discuss in my next video, but there's been plenty of good stuff as well, stuff to look forward to. So let's just dive right in. Number 10, Xbox One Series X. I will admit that the announcement was kind of weird. The fact that it happened during the Game Awards 2019, that was certainly unexpected, but the announcement certainly got many people's attention. We got to see what the box looks like. It's very minimalistic, this monolithic kind of slab of a box, essentially a black box. I kind of like it, not gonna lie. At first I was taken aback, but it grew on me, and it's essentially this very minimalistic desktop tower that's like a lot smaller than a regular desktop would be. We learned that it's gonna have 12 teraflops, which is a whole lot of power and already beats Stadia, so there's that. But I think the most important thing about Xbox Series X and what's exciting about it is that it's setting a lot of important foundations to ensure its success. Microsoft bought a lot of first-party studios that are essentially working on brand new exclusives for the Xbox platform. We got Xbox Game Pass that has gained a lot of traction, the subscription service that gives you a whole library of games at a very reasonable cost. And then there's also things like Project xCloud, which is cloud gaming done right, I think. It's something that combines both local dedicated hardware and that whole Netflix of games that Xbox Game Pass gets right, where Stadia gets wrong. And there's also backwards compatibility that was announced shortly after Xbox Series X's unveiling, and that's going to allow you to access all of your Xbox One games as well as various Xbox 360 and original Xbox games. So the formula is there, and it's now up to Microsoft to push that through with pricing that is appropriate and with good games. You know, they have to really nail the games this time. That's where they lacked with Xbox One. That's what caused the downfall of Xbox One. That's why PS4 excelled. Now, I am a little concerned that the naming convention of just calling it Xbox Series X might confuse people with Xbox One X. I just fear that it's going to be like a Wii and Wii U type of scenario where some people were confused about, the difference between them. A lot of us hardcore gamers know the difference. A lot of average consumers might not. So there's a concern there, but we'll see what happens. Until then, though, I think Xbox Series X is off to a good start, a solid foundation that they can drive home if they handle things appropriately. Number 9, Half-Life Alyx. Not gonna lie, when I first saw that tweet saying that, hey, we're gonna show you a trailer for Half-Life Alyx, it's a VR Half-Life game, my first reaction was, oh hell no, why VR? Now, it was apparent from the title that this was a spin-off type of game, not a mainline entry, that was gonna be about Alyx fans. And I don't know. I had reservations, but then I saw the trailer and I looked at it and went, okay, there's something here. This could be the flagship that VR needs to prove that you can really make some compelling, full-fledged AAA experiences on VR, something that's relatively been sorely lacking on this new form of gaming. And I think they were smart by warning people that it was going to be VR before showing the gameplay reveal, and the reaction has been genuinely positive because it genuinely looks really good. Not to mention, Half-Life is back. Even if it is through VR, I think that this is the beginning of something. It's not just like Half-Life Alyx and then they're going to be done with Half-Life. I think we could look forward to Half-Life 3 down the line, judging by the fact that they've returned to the Half-Life story through this new VR game. I think this is a stepping stone towards Half-Life 3, and I'm excited for future prospects. But the most important thing for Half-Life Alyx in particular, for this game specifically, is that it looks like a great VR game that takes full advantage of the medium and that's really thoughtfully implemented. Number 8, Disco Elysium. This is a game that I haven't finished yet, but I've played quite a bit of it, and man, is it just an intriguing narrative journey. And it's also this indie game that came out of the blue, and it won all kinds of awards already. Critics are raving about it. Customers are raving about it. It took like 4 game awards, which is more than any other game, I believe, any other studio. So all of that is incredible. I think indie is such an important aspect of the games industry. They're the ones who tend to think outside the box, the ones who tend to focus on creativity and express a certain level of passion that I feel like sometimes gets lost in the AAA landscape. And while there are bad apples in the indie segment as well, we also get stuff like Disco Elysium, which absolutely kills it, shows how important indies are, and I'm just so happy to see that a developer like Zaum, I think that's what they're called, I'm just happy to see them get all this recognition. Number 7, Death Stranding. Look, I get that not everyone loved Death Stranding, but for me, the fact that a game like this could even get made is a triumph within itself. I think we should encourage gaming companies like Sony, these giants, these colossal parts of the video game landscape. We should encourage these folks to take a chance on games like Death Stranding and some of the more out there ideas, because ultimately I am all for the bucking of traditional trends. I'm tired of seeing the same types of AAA games that pursue trends. I love it when a creator just tries something with an honest and earnest intention that doesn't try to monetize players, doesn't try to be greedy. Death Stranding, the only thing it did wrong was not appealing to everyone, but it never had any sort of ill intent behind it. And I think there's something really cool there personally with Death Stranding. I really loved the experience and got a lot out of it, even if others didn't. But even with the divisive reception, I think endeavors like this attempt to think outside the box and really try to push the gaming industry in directions you wouldn't think of, this kind of thing should be encouraged. I think it's cool that Sony was willing to take a chance on it and that Kojima was willing to risk it all for this bizarre concept that a lot of people really did absolutely love. Number 6, Bungie Activision split. It is always heartwarming for me when I hear of a game development studio that manages to get away from the constraints of publishers. Don't get me wrong, there are times when publishers are needed because they can provide, the resources, the manpower, the financial support for a game to be made. But when you've got a company like Bungie who can kind of get away with being on their own, when they manage to split away from Activision, a publisher with certain mandates that don't have a positive influence on games, when they can get away from that and do their own thing with the Destiny franchise, the results speak for themselves. While Destiny has some kinks to work out, I think overall we've seen Destiny being pushed in a more positive direction. And I think the autonomy that Bungie has gained recently is a big part of that. It allows them to just do things on their own terms, communicate with the community on their own terms, and push forward with the franchise on their own terms. Just in general, anytime a game franchise and a company can break away from Activision, I personally see it as good news, because from what I've seen, Activision has done nothing but harm a lot of these beloved IPs and franchises. Number 5, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, an actual good EA-published Star Wars game. Obviously, Respawn was the one responsible for this. They're the ones who actually made the game, and seemingly EA left them alone to their own devices to make the game they wanted, and the results are wonderful. This isn't some greedy bullshit, This is just a proper game that was designed to entertain and not to monetize, and you've got this amazing Star Wars experience that's rough around the edges, but combines Souls-like combat with Metroid-like exploration and Uncharted-like traversal and set pieces to create an experience that draws a lot of familiar elements but combines them into something that is cohesive and that really does feel like a Star Wars game. I love the way the Force powers are implemented and adds a twist to that Souls-like formula. I just love the ending. I mean, come on, when that certain individual shows up. It is just a solid Star Wars game, and having gone years without a solid Star Wars game. This was just super refreshing, and there's clearly going to be a sequel to this. It sold incredibly well despite EA's claims that single-player games are dying or that people are no longer interested in linear single-player games. Despite all those claims, Jedi Fallen Order has proved that notion wrong. It's broken records in terms of Star Wars digital sales and stuff like that. So all of that is fantastic, and hell, actually, Battlefront 2 is also making something of a comeback with a lot of updates and transitioning away from the pay-to-win loot box bullshit that they initially tried to ship the game with. So a lot of people are liking Battlefront 2 as well lately. I mean, I'd like to think that EA has learned their lesson and that this is a trend we can expect from here on out, but I don't really trust EA. But I can hope that they fear backlash and potential government regulation enough that they'll just focus on actually letting developers make these solid games rather than interfering with monetization intent. Number 4, Sonic movie comeback. Now, I know this is a movie, but it is based on a video game character who is thoroughly iconic. We all know what Sonic should look and feel like, except the first trailer that came out in late April completely botched that. We all know at this point how horrible and terrifying and genuinely uncomfortable that design was, but shortly thereafter, the director came out and said, okay, we have heard the criticism, we're going to go back to the drawing board and redesign Sonic, and they also delayed the project so that the visual effects artists would have more time to fix the design. So all of that already, it was just a great thing to see. I totally understand that you want to let creators explore, but with the Sonic design, that initial design, they just got it wrong. Period. It was just a bad design, and so it was good to see, the higher-ups of this project, the decision makers, swallow their pride and realize they fucked up, go back to the drawing board, and when the new trailer came out, I mean, the reception was overwhelmingly positive, and a lot of people saw this as a good thing. Creators listening to the fans of these IPs who, in many ways, know better. They know when Sonic looks way off, and frankly, with the first Sonic design, you don't need to be a Sonic fan to know that there's just something really terrifying about that creature. There's some unfortunate news in that the animation studio that did the redesign, the animation studio that saved this Sonic movie essentially, got shut down, but it's important to note that it wasn't a direct result of the Sonic redesign. It's just the parent company of that studio decided to invest elsewhere because of tax reasons, corporate reasons, financial reasons. So that was more of a corporate thing that would have happened anyway, regardless of the Sonic movie redesign. It's still unfortunate that happened, but, they certainly went out with a bang by doing the Sonic design justice. And by saving this movie, I really think this could be the turning point for this movie. Number 3, Capcom is frickin' killing it. If there is one AAA publisher that I have a lot of faith in right now, it is Capcom. They're utterly slaying the competition in terms of consistent, high-quality game releases. We got Resident Evil 2 Remake, which was one of the Game of the Year nominees, and deservedly so, which took this old, beloved game and brought it back into the modern era in just the right way, where they balance the nostalgic aspects with modern video game graphics and mechanics. They've got Devil May Cry 5. The return of Devil May Cry was long overdue, and they did so gloriously with the 5th entry, with incredible visuals, tight gameplay. I just absolutely loved Devil May Cry 5. Still think it's a sin it didn't get Game of the Year nomination. There's Monster Hunter World Iceborne, which is this incredible expansion to an already addictive, solid game that adds a whole of new quality of life improvements, a new map to explore, new monsters, a genuine bona fide expansion and not just some overpriced DLC. I miss the era of expansions from back in the good old days. Iceborne feels like a return to form. And then out of the blue, they announced Resident Evil 3 Remake, which looks awesome. I mean, just the visuals and just that teaser trailer they released, it just came out of nowhere. And we're seeing that come out a year after Resident Evil 2 Remake. It's crazy that we're seeing both of these come out in such a short time span between each other. And if 2 Remake is anything to go by, I think 3 Remake could be thoroughly fantastic. and I'm genuinely excited to delve into that. But yeah, Capcom, keep doing what you're doing now. This is it. I'm just excited to see what Capcom has in store for us, and I hope they maintain this streak right here. This is awesome. This is what we need more of from the AAA landscape. Number 2, loot box crackdown. It is no secret that government officials around the world have become more attentive about the way loot boxes are implemented in games. It's caught their attention, and we've already seen countries in Europe flat out regulate this stuff. But in 2019, we have seen a few new developments throughout all of this. Back in late January 2019, we saw that EA was forced to remove loot boxes from the Belgium version of FIFA because, well, Belgium recently enacted a new regulation saying that loot boxes are straight up gambling and should be regulated as such. And then in late May, we saw the United States, introduce a bill that is intended to tackle the predatory implementation of loot boxes and pay-to-win microtransactions. And throughout the year, that bill has actually gained bipartisan support. And you know you fucked up when you have pitted both the Republicans and the Democrats against you, when they can agree on something. Then in August, there was that FTC hearing in which the consumer advocate organizations and gambling researchers came together to present their case against loot boxes. And the ESA was there as well, but all they did was essentially say, well, we don't agree with that stance. They didn't present any counter evidence. They had no arguments to make. That same year, we also saw the UK do their own research, and they published their own damning report on loot boxes, in which it was recommended that loot boxes should be regulated as if they were gambling. So that right there hopefully will inspire the UK to actually take action on this front, to enact proper safeguards so that less people are harmed by loot boxes, because right now they're running rampant. The ratings boards are doing a piss-poor job of informing people about their existence within certain games that are rated E for everyone or PEGI 3 or whatnot. It's just a whole mess that some kind of oversight needs to happen. And so with all of this happening, we have seen a lot of games shift away from loot boxes. Rocket League recently steered away from loot boxes, though they implemented a worse monetization in its place. We're seeing a lot of EA games like Anthem, Battlefield 5 move away from loot boxes, even though FIFA still tries to keep them in. A lot of these companies are beginning to recognize that loot boxes are both a PR and a legal liability that they're better off steering away from. And that is in large part because of the gaming community's backlash, people raising their voices and expressing their dissent against this stuff, which finally caught the attention of government officials, particularly with the whole Battlefront 2 debacle. We'll see how this all develops in 2020. I do think that regulators need to nip this in the bud because loot boxes are still very prominent in the mobile gaming landscape. There's still a lot of it in the AAA landscape with console and PC games. And not to mention that even if we are seeing some companies steer away from that, you never know when, years down the line, they might get the bright idea of returning to loot boxes now that the storm has blown over. So it's better to be preemptive and to not trust game companies into regulating themselves, because clearly their idea of self-regulation is not regulating themselves so they can achieve financial goals, so they can monetize in the most predatory and egregious ways possible to please the investors. Number 1, Cyberpunk 2077. The folks at CD Projekt Red are still killing it with the way they're presenting this game and with what they're saying about their moral compass with this game. So they have already emphasized time and again that they're passing hard on microtransactions. There's going to be no monetization whatsoever in this game. They said expect Witcher 3 level of consumer friendliness. So free DLCs, reasonably priced, expansive expansions, and so on and so forth. They gave a hard pass to Epic exclusivity. They want this game out to as many people as possible. GOG, Steam, also on Epic, and, PS4, Xbox One, all of them. This game's coming out on as many platforms as possible, and that's a huge plus. The Keanu Reeves reveal? I mean, come on. I don't think there was a more hype announcement than that right there. And he's perfect for Johnny Silverhand, in my opinion. So that was fantastic. That was just a great moment in 2019. And then they also announced this incredible standard edition package that looks like most other AAA games deluxe editions, except sold at a standard price. It comes with all these extra goodies on top of the game. CD Projekt Red has continued doing ARG and secret messages with the community to not only keep them engaged, but also to keep them informed about CD Projekt Red's intentions and how they're planning to release this product so that it is as consumer friendly as possible. They also came out this year and said that they're not going to do any sort of pre-order bonus because they want to keep the experience and the content in the game the same for everyone, which is, I think, the right mentality. There's been some great responses that CD Projekt Red has issued when certain outlets and people on social media try to peg Cyberpunk 2077 as racist because of the voodoo boys and the animals, or sexist because of the way they're representing, like transgender people and stuff like that. But beyond all of that, the fact still remains that Cyberpunk 2077 still looks like an utterly incredible game where CD Projekt Red is going to take all of their RPG sensibilities and storytelling sensibilities from Witcher 3 and apply it in this awesome new cyberpunk setting. They showed extensive gameplay footage last year, they showed some more gameplay footage this year, and it all just looks really, really awesome. And it doesn't look like they're trying to pull an Anthem and show us fake gameplay footage or anything. I was there during the E3 private demos when somebody was actually holding a controller and playing through this stuff. For a cyberpunk fan like myself, as a huge fan of the genre, this could be the cyberpunk game. It looks like a dream come true. But obviously, final judgment will come when the game ships on April 2020. But so far, everything about this game looks right, both in terms of the business model and the way this is being approached, and the way it's being sold to consumers and the extra goodies that come with it. And the game itself really does look like it could be something really special. And as a bonus, another triumphant moment for CD Projekt Red is the fact that Witcher 3 has seen something of a resurgence after the Netflix show success. There are more concurrent players right now than when the concurrent players peaked 4 years ago when the game first launched. That is something that I just haven't seen happen before. The stars sort of aligned, and there's also the fact that Witcher 3 is such a good game that word has spread, and it's so replayable that a lot of old players are coming back, and no doubt a lot of new people who became interested in Witcher after watching the Netflix show have bought the game. And yeah, it's just a meteoric rise for Witcher across the board, both for the Netflix show, for the Sapkowski books, and for CD Projekt Red's game. And that brings us to the end of this video, folks. These are my top 10 most triumphant moments in gaming for 2019. Obviously, this is all subjective. My list may differ from yours, and I might have totally missed out on certain things that didn't come to mind as I was making this list. So help me out here. Drop a comment below on other triumphant moments you think deserve mention, and put down your own list in the comments below. To be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.